Yuna walked through the crowded market level of Helix 7 station with her head held high, even though her hearts were heavy. She had 4 arms like all Valari, and her skin was the color of silver mixed with blue. Her people were known across the galaxy as hard workers. They were fast, smart, and never complained. Any employer would be lucky to have a Valari on their team, but no one wanted Yuna. She stopped in front of a large shop that sold machine parts. The sign outside said they needed workers. Yuna had seen it yesterday and had spent all night preparing what she would say. She smoothed down her worn clothes and walked inside. The owner was a Grix, a large creature with thick green skin and small black eyes. He looked up from his counter when Yuna entered. "I am here about the job," Yuna said. Her voice was steady and professional. "I have experience in inventory work. I can organize, lift, and sort faster than most species because of my 4 arms. I am reliable and I learn quickly." The Grix looked at her for a long moment. Then he checked something on his data pad. "You are Yuna? From Housing Block 17? "Yes. It says here you have offspring, 2 of them, and no mate." Yuna felt her stomach tighten, but she kept her face calm. "That is correct. But I have child care arranged. My work will not be affected." The Grix made a sound like a laugh, but it was not friendly. "No mate and 2 spawn? Your attention will always be divided. Unmated mothers are unstable. Everyone knows this. I need someone focused." He waved one of his big hands toward the door. "Go, I cannot use you." Yuna wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him that she had never been more focused in her life, that her children were the reason she worked so hard. But she had learned that arguing never helped. It only made things worse. She left the shop without another word. The next place was a Talari shipyard. The foreman there was tall and thin, with skin like brown leather and eyes that never blinked. "We need welders," he said. "Can you weld?" "I can learn," Yuna said. "I am a fast learner, and I am strong. I can work long hours." "Valari are good workers," the foreman admitted. Then he looked at his data pad, too. They all looked at their data pads. They all had access to the same information about her. "But you have no mate, children with no father. This shows poor judgment. How can I trust you with expensive equipment if you make bad choices in your personal life?" Yuna felt anger rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. "My personal life has nothing to do with my work." "It has everything to do with it," the foreman said. "Your kind should not reproduce without a proper bond. It shows a lack of commitment. I need workers who commit." He turned away from her. "The position is filled." It was not filled. Yuna knew it was not filled. But she left anyway. She tried a restaurant next, then a cleaning company, then a cargo warehouse. Every place was the same. They looked at her with interest at first. Valari were good workers after all. But then they checked her file. Then they saw she was alone with children. Then their faces changed. "We are not hiring right now," they said. Or, "You are not what we are looking for." Or, "We need someone with more availability." But they all meant the same thing. They did not want her. She was damaged goods. She was a problem waiting to happen. By the end of the day, Yuna had visited 9 different employers. All 9 had rejected her. She walked home slowly. Helix 7 station was always busy, always full of beings from 100 different worlds. They rushed past her without seeing her. She was invisible to them. Just another struggling person in a galaxy full of struggling people. Her housing block was in the lower levels, where the air was not as clean and the lights were not as bright. She climbed 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken again. When she reached her door, she stopped and took a deep breath. She arranged her face into something that looked like a smile. Then she went inside. "Mother!" 2 small bodies crashed into her the moment she entered. Hanel was 8 years old, tall for his age, with curious eyes that noticed everything. Jiwoo was 5, small and quiet, and she clung to Yuna's leg like she would never let go. "Hello, my little ones," Yuna said. She bent down and wrapped all 4 of her arms around them both. For a moment, just a moment, everything was okay. "Did you find work today?" Hanul asked. He was old enough to understand what was happening, old enough to be worried. Yuna kept her smile in place. "Not today, but I have more places to visit tomorrow. Something will come." Hanul nodded, but she could see the doubt in his eyes. He had heard this before. That night, after the children were asleep, Yuna sat at the small table in their kitchen. In front of her was a data pad showing their account balance. She had 47 credits left, food for 3 days, maybe 4 if she did not eat much herself. She put her head in her hands. What was she going to do? She had sold everything she could sell. She had asked everyone she could ask. No one would help. No one would give her a chance. She was about to turn off the data pad when a new job posting appeared. It was for a cargo handler on a ship. The pay was fair. The posting did not list many requirements, and the ship was owned by a human. Yuna hesitated. Humans were new to this part of the galaxy. They had only been here for about 50 years. Most species did not know what to think of them. Some said they were friendly and curious. Others said they were violent and unpredictable. Yuna had never met one, but she needed work. Her children needed to eat. She sent in her application before she could change her mind. Then she went to bed and tried to sleep. In the morning, she had a message. The human wanted to meet her. The interview was at Docking Bay 14 at midday. Yuna read the message 3 times. Then she got dressed in her cleanest clothes and told her children she would be back soon. This was her last chance. She could not waste it. Docking Bay 14 was in the middle section of Helix 7 Station, where the independent traders kept their ships. Yuna had never been to this part of the station before. The ships here were smaller than the big corporate vessels on the upper levels. They looked older, too, with dents and scratches that showed years of hard use. She found the ship called the Starling at the end of the row. It was not impressive. It was a medium-sized cargo freighter, maybe 40 years old, with a hull that had been repaired many times. But it was clean. Someone took care of this ship. Someone was proud of it. Yuna stood at the bottom of the boarding ramp and tried to calm her nerves. This was it, her last chance. If this human rejected her too, she did not know what she would do. She climbed the ramp and knocked on the hull. A moment later, a voice called out from inside. "Come in. We are in the cargo bay." Yuna stepped through the airlock and into the ship. The cargo bay was large and open, with crates stacked neatly against the walls. Everything was organized. Everything was in its place. This was the ship of someone who knew what they were doing. A human walked toward her. He was shorter than she expected, with dark hair and tired eyes. His skin was brown, and his hands were rough and calloused from work. He wore simple clothes, a plain shirt and work pants, and he moved like someone who had been loading cargo his whole life. "You must be Yuna," he said. His voice was calm and friendly. "I am Doyen. Thank you for coming." "Thank you for meeting with me," Yuna said. She kept her voice steady, professional, just like she had at all the other interviews. Another figure appeared behind Doyen. This one was a Makari, an older female with gray fur and kind eyes. The Makari were a quiet species, known for their skill with machines. This one looked like she had been working on engines for 50 years or more. "This is Bora," Doyen said. "She is our engineer. She keeps this old ship flying." Bora nodded at Yuna but did not speak. Yuna nodded back. "So," Doyen said, "let us talk about the job. We need a cargo handler, someone to help load and unload freight, keep the bay organized, maybe help with some repairs if needed. It is hard work, long hours sometimes. We do runs all over the sector, some short trips, some that take a few weeks. Is that something you can do?" Yuna stood up straighter. "Yes. I am a hard worker. I am strong, and my 4 arms make me faster than most species at handling cargo. I have experience in warehouse work and inventory management. I am reliable, and I never miss a shift. Doyen nodded. Good. That is what I want to hear. He looked at a datapad in his hand. Your file says you have worked at 3 different places on Helix 7. Why did you leave them? 2 of them closed down, Yuna said. The 3rd one cut their staff when business slowed. I was the newest, so I was let go first. That happens a lot out here, Doyun said. The economy is hard on everyone. He looked at his datapad again, then asked, Can you lift a standard cargo crate, the ones that weigh about 50 kilos? Yes. Are you comfortable with long hauls, being away from the station for weeks at a time? Yes. Do you get space sick? No. I have traveled on ships before. Doyen smiled. Good. Those are my only questions. Yuna blinked. That was it? No questions about her personal life? No questions about her judgment or her commitment? She waited for him to check her file more carefully. She waited for his face to change when he saw the truth about her, but he just stood there, smiling, waiting for her to speak. Finally, she could not take it anymore. She had to tell him before he found out on his own. It was better to be rejected now than to get her hopes up. There is something you should know, she said. Her voice was quieter now. I have children, 2 of them, and I have no mate. I am raising them alone. She watched Doyun's face carefully, waiting for the judgment, waiting for the disgust, waiting for the polite words that meant no. But his face did not change. He just nodded slowly and said, Okay. Will they need to come aboard, or do you have childcare arranged? Yuna was so surprised that she did not answer right away. I have a neighbor who watches them during the day. For short trips, that would be fine. But for longer hauls, I would have trouble finding someone to keep them. Doyun thought about this for a moment. Then he turned to look at the back of the cargo bay. We have a spare cabin back there. It is small, but it has 2 bunks. If you need to bring your children on a longer run, they can stay there. Yuna stared at him. You would allow that? Why not? This ship is not fancy, but it is safe. We are not hauling anything dangerous, and kids should be with their mother when possible. He shrugged, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Yuna felt something strange happening in her chest. It took her a moment to realize what it was. Hope. She had not felt it in a very long time, but she still did not understand. May I ask you something? Sure. Why are you willing to hire me? Every other employer on this station rejected me because of my children. They said I would be distracted. They said I was unstable. They said I showed poor judgment by having offspring without a mate. She heard the bitterness in her own voice, but could not stop it. Why are you different? Doyun was quiet for a moment. He looked at Yuna with an expression she could not read. Then he said, Where I come from, there are millions of single mothers, maybe billions. My own mother was one of them. She raised me and my sister alone after our father left. He paused, and something sad passed across his face. She worked harder than anyone I've ever known. She had 2 jobs sometimes, 3 jobs when things were bad. She never complained. She just kept going because she had to, because we needed her. He looked directly into Yuna's eyes. Single mothers are the toughest people I have ever met. If you are anything like them, then I would be lucky to have you on my crew. Yuna did not know what to say. No one had ever said anything like this to her before. Doyun smiled again. The job pays 200 credits per week, plus a share of any bonuses we get for fast deliveries. Room and board are included when you are on the ship. We leave for our next run in 3 days. Does that work for you? Yuna found her voice. Yes. Yes, that works. Great. Doyun held out his hand. Yuna had heard about this human custom. She reached out with one of her hands and shook his. His grip was firm and warm. "Welcome to the Starling," he said. Yuna walked home in a daze. She had a job. A real job with fair pay, and a captain who treated her like a person. She wanted to laugh. She wanted to cry. She wanted to run home and tell her children that everything was going to be okay. For the first time in months, she believed it might be true. Her first week on the Starling was hard, not because the work was difficult, but because Yuna kept waiting for something to go wrong. She kept waiting for Doyen to change his mind. She kept waiting for the kindness to stop, but it never did. Doyen was a good captain. He was calm and patient, and he never raised his voice. When Yuna made mistakes, he showed her how to do things correctly without making her feel stupid. When she worked hard, he noticed and thanked her. It was such a simple thing, being thanked. But no one had done it in a very long time. Bora was quiet, but she was kind in her own way. She showed Yuna around the ship on the first day and explained how everything worked. She did not talk much, but when she did, her words were worth listening to. She had been flying on cargo ships for over 40 years. She knew everything about engines and repairs and how to keep an old ship running when it should have fallen apart long ago. The three of them fell into a rhythm. Doyen piloted the ship and handled the business side of things. Bora kept the engines running. Yuna managed the cargo bay, loading and unloading freight at every stop. Her 4 arms made her fast, and she organized everything so efficiently that they could load the ship in half the time it used to take. Doyen noticed. "You are good at this," he said one day as they left a trading post with a full cargo hold. "Really good. I should have hired a Valari years ago." Yuna felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you, Captain." "Doyen," he said. "Just call me Doyen. We do not use titles on this ship." It was strange at first, calling him by his name, but Yuna got used to it. They made 3 short runs that first week, hauling machine parts and medical supplies to stations around the sector. The work was steady and the pay came on time. Yuna sent most of it back to Helix 7, where her neighbor was watching Hanul and Jiwoo. She made sure her children had enough food, enough clothes, everything they needed. On the 4th day, Doyen played music in the cargo bay while they worked. It came from a small speaker he carried in his pocket. The songs were old, from Earth, with simple melodies and words about love and loss and hope. Yuna did not understand all the lyrics, but she liked the sound. It made the work feel lighter. "What is this music called?" she asked. "Oldies," Doyen said. "Songs from a long time ago on Earth. My mother used to play them when I was young." He got a faraway look in his eyes when he said that. Yuna wanted to ask him more about his mother, but she did not want to pry. She had learned that Doyen would share things when he was ready. In the 2nd week, they took a longer job, a 3-week run through the outer spiral, delivering agricultural equipment to farming colonies. It was good money, but it meant Yuna would be away from her children for a long time. The night before they left, Doyen found her in the cargo bay, checking the freight for the 3rd time. She always checked things 3 times. It helped her feel in control. "Are you okay?" he asked. Yuna hesitated. "My children. 3 weeks is a long time. My neighbor can watch them, but you will miss them," Doyen said. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "We have a communication system on the ship. You can call them every day if you want. It is not the same as being there, but it helps." Yuna felt grateful. "Thank you." The 3-week run went smoothly. They visited 5 different colonies, and at each one, Yuna made sure the cargo was unloaded perfectly. No damage, no delays. The farmers were happy, and they paid a bonus for the fast delivery. Every night, Yuna called her children. Hanul told her about school. Jiwoo showed her drawings she had made. They asked when she was coming home, and she counted down the days with them. It was hard being away, but Doyen was right. The calls helped. On the way back to Helix 7, Yuna mentioned that Haniel's birthday was coming up in 2 weeks. She said it casually, not expecting anything. But Doyun checked the schedule and moved some things around. He adjusted the route so they would be back at the station 2 days before the birthday. "We can take a short break," he said. "Spend some time with your family." Yuna did not know how to thank him. She tried to find the words, but they would not come. Doyun just smiled and said, "Family is important. Everything else can wait." 1 week later, everything changed. Yuna's neighbor sent a message. She was sick and could not watch the children anymore. Yuna had no one else on Helix 7 she could ask. No family, no friends she trusted. She would have to quit her job and find work on the station again. The thought made her sick. She had finally found something good, and now she was going to lose it. She went to Doyun and told him the situation. Her voice was steady. But inside, she was falling apart. "I understand if you need to replace me," she said. "I am sorry. I should have had a better plan." Doyun shook his head. "I do not want to replace you. You are the best cargo handler I have ever had." He thought for a moment, then said, "Bring your children on the ship." Yuna stared at him. "What?" "Bring them aboard. We have that spare cabin. It is not perfect, but it is safe. They can stay with us." "But this is a cargo ship. We are working. It is not a place for children." "Why not?" Doyun asked. "It is a place for people, is it not? Your children are people. Small people, but still people." Bora walked into the room. She had been listening. "I agree with the captain," she said. It was the most words Yuna had heard her say at once. Children should be with their mother. Bring them. And so Yuna did. Hanaul and Jiwoo came aboard the Starling on a bright morning. They were nervous and excited, holding hands as they walked up the boarding ramp. Hanaul looked at everything with wide eyes, taking it all in. Jiwoo stayed close to Yuna, hiding behind her legs. Doyun knelt down to meet them at their level. "Hello," he said. "I am Doyun. Welcome to my ship." "Hello," Hanaul said politely. Jiwoo said nothing but peeked out from behind Yuna. Doyun smiled. "Do you want to see the cockpit? I can show you how we fly the ship." Hanaul's eyes went wide. "Yes, please." They spent an hour in the cockpit, and Doyun explained everything. The controls, the navigation, the stars outside the window. Hanaul asked 100 questions, and Doyun answered every single one. Bora took Jiwoo to the engine room and let her push some buttons. The buttons did not do anything important, but Jiwoo did not know that. She laughed and clapped her hands, and Bora smiled, a real smile that made her old face look young again. That night, Doyun replicated something called birthday cake. It was sweet and soft, covered in white frosting. Hanaul had never seen anything like it. "This is a human custom," Doyun explained. "When someone has a birthday, we make a cake and sing a song." He sang the song for them. It was simple and short, and his voice was not very good. But Hanaul and Jiwoo laughed and tried to sing along, and Yuna felt tears in her eyes. After the children were asleep in their bunks, Yuna sat alone in the cargo bay. She looked out the window at the stars and let herself cry. They were not sad tears. They were something else. Relief, maybe. Gratitude. She had spent so long being strong, so long carrying everything alone. But she was not alone anymore. She had found a crew. She had found a family. And for the first time in years, she had found hope. 2 months passed, and the Starling became home. Yuna stopped waiting for things to go wrong. She stopped flinching when Doyun called her name. She stopped expecting kindness to turn into cruelty. It never did. The children settled into life on the ship like they had always been there. Hanaul helped Yuna in the cargo bay, passing her tools and learning how to check inventory. He was getting taller every week, and he asked questions about everything. How does the ship fly? Why are stars different colors? What is that planet called? Doyun answered all of them with patience and care. Jiwoo followed Bora everywhere. The old Makari engineer had become her favorite person on the ship. She called her grandmother now, and Bora did not correct her. Jiwoo sat in the engine room for hours, watching Bora work, handing her wrenches and bolts when she asked. Sometimes Bora explained what she was doing. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence. Yuna watched her children grow and change, and she felt something she had not felt in years. Peace. But not everyone was happy for her. When the Starling returned to Helix 7 for supplies, Yuna took the children to the market to buy new clothes. They had grown out of their old ones. As they walked through the crowded streets, Yuna heard someone call her name. She turned and saw her cousin Mirai standing near a food stall. Mirai was a Valari like Yuna, tall and proud, with expensive clothes and jewelry that showed she had done well for herself. She had always looked down on Yuna, even before the children, even before the shame of being unmated. "Yuna," Mirai said, walking toward her. Her voice was loud enough for people nearby to hear. "I heard you were working for a human now. I did not believe it, but here you are, dressed like a laborer, dragging your spawn through the market." Yuna felt heat rise to her face, but she kept her voice calm. "Hello, Mirai. Yes, I am working on a cargo ship. The pay is good and the captain is fair." "Fair?" Mirai laughed. It was not a nice sound. "You are working for a primitive. Humans have been in space for barely 100 years. They are emotional and violent. They start wars with each other constantly. And you trust one with your children?" Hanul stepped closer to Yuna and took her hand. Jiwoo hid behind her legs. They could feel the hostility coming from Mirai. "Doyun is a good person," Yuna said. "He treats me with more respect than any Valari employer ever has." "Because he does not know any better," Mirai said. "Humans have no culture, no proper way of doing things. They let anyone breed, anyone raise children. They have no standards." She looked at Hanul and Jiwoo with disgust in her eyes. "I suppose that is why he hired you. He does not understand that you are damaged goods." Something snapped inside Yuna. She had taken insults before. She had accepted rejection and humiliation and judgment from strangers. But she would not let anyone speak about her children that way. "My children are not damaged," Yuna said. Her voice was hard and cold. "They are smart and kind and good. They are the best thing I have ever done, and Doyun sees that. He sees their value because he is a good person, not because he is primitive or stupid." Mirai's eyes went wide. No one spoke to her that way. "You have forgotten your place," Mirai hissed. "You have forgotten who you are." "No," Yuna said. "I have finally remembered." She took her children's hands and walked away. Her hearts were pounding, but she did not look back. When they returned to the ship, Doyun could see something was wrong. Yuna told him what happened. She expected him to be angry at Mirai, but instead, he just looked sad. "There are people like that everywhere," he said. "Every species has them. People who think they are better than others because of where they come from or who their family is. They are wrong. They are always wrong. But you cannot change their minds. You can only live your life and prove them wrong by being happy." Yuna nodded. He was right. She knew he was right. That night, a new contract came through. It was different from their usual jobs. A settlement in the outer spiral was dying from a plague. They needed medical supplies immediately. Thousands of people were sick. Hundreds had already died. The medicine existed, but no one would deliver it because the hyperspace route was too dangerous. The path went through a region called the Shattered Zone, where hyperspace was unstable. Storms could appear without warning. Ships could be thrown off course, damaged, or destroyed. Most captains refused to go near it. The pay was very high, but the risk was also very high. Doyun called a meeting in the cargo bay. He explained the situation and showed them the route on a map. The storms were unpredictable. They could get through safely, or they could die trying. "I am not going to make this decision alone," Do-yoon said. "This is our ship, all of us. We all have to agree." Bora spoke first. "I have flown through bad space before. I have kept this ship together through worse than storms. I say we go. Those people need help." Do-yoon nodded and looked at Yuna. "What about you? You have more to lose than any of us. Your children are on this ship." Yuna looked at Hanul and Jiwoo, who were sitting on a cargo crate nearby. They were watching her, waiting to see what she would say. She thought about the sick people on that settlement. She thought about mothers holding their dying children, praying for medicine that would never come. "We go," she said. "If we can help, we have to try." Do-yoon smiled. "Then we go." They loaded the medical supplies and left Helix 7 that night. The first 2 days of the journey were smooth. Then they entered the shattered zone. The storm hit them without warning. One moment the ship was flying smoothly through hyperspace. The next moment, everything was chaos. The ship shook like it was being torn apart. Alarms screamed, lights flickered and went out. Yuna grabbed her children and held them tight as the world spun around them. Do-yoon's voice came over the speaker, calm and steady despite everything. "Everyone hold on. We are going through it." The storm raged for 2 hours. Systems failed one after another. The navigation went dark. The shields dropped. The hull started to crack in 3 different places. Yuna left her children in their cabin and ran to help Bora with repairs. The old engineer was moving faster than Yuna had ever seen her move, replacing parts and rerouting power with hands that did not shake. "There!" Bora shouted, pointing at a ruptured conduit on the ceiling. "I need that sealed, or we lose life support." Yuna climbed up and used her forearms to hold the conduit in place while Bora welded it shut. Then another alarm went off, and they ran to the next crisis, and the next, and the next. In the cockpit, Do-yoon flew the ship by hand. The computer was dead, so he used his eyes and his instincts, steering through the storm like a sailor in ancient seas. His hands were tight on the controls, and sweat ran down his face. But he did not stop. He did not give up. After 2 hours, they came out the other side. The ship was damaged. They had lost shields and navigation and half the sensors. But they were alive. And they still had the medicine. Bora and Yuna spent the next 6 hours making repairs. When they finally finished, Yuna went back to her children. Hanul was holding Jiwoo, keeping her calm, being brave, even though he was scared too. Yuna wrapped all 4 arms around them and held them close. "We made it," she whispered. "We are okay." 2 days later, they reached the settlement. The people there cried when they saw the medicine. They had given up hope. They thought no one was coming. Do-yoon and Yuna helped unload the supplies. The settlement's doctor grabbed Do-yoon's hand and would not let go. "You saved us," he said. "You saved all of us." Do-yoon shook his head. "We just delivered the cargo. You do the saving." But the doctor was right. Over the next few weeks, the plague was stopped. Thousands of lives were saved because 4 people on a small cargo ship decided to fly through a storm. On the way home, Yuna found Do-yoon in the cockpit, looking at the stars. "You could have died," she said. "We all could have died. Why did you do it?" Do-yoon was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Because someone had to, and if no one else would, then it had to be us." He looked at her with tired eyes. "My mother taught me that. She said the world is hard, and most people will not help you. But that does not mean you stop helping others. You do what is right, even when it is difficult, especially when it is difficult." Yuna nodded. She understood. She understood everything. 3 months after the plague run, everything was different. The Starling had become famous in the sector. Word had spread about the small cargo ship that flew through the shattered zone to save a dying settlement. Traders and merchants who had ignored them before now wanted to work with them. Contracts came in every week, good contracts with fair pay and reasonable routes. They could not accept them all. Do-yun kept the crew small. He did not want to grow too big or too fast. He liked things the way they were. 4 people on a ship working together, taking care of each other. It was enough. Yuna's reputation grew too. Other captains heard about the Valari cargo handler with 4 arms who could load a ship faster than anyone in the sector. They heard about the woman who worked through a hyperspace storm, sealing hull breaches and rerouting power while the ship fell apart around her. Some of them offered her jobs, better pay, bigger ships. She turned them all down. "This is my home," she told Do-yun when he asked why she stayed. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. I am not leaving." Do-yun smiled. He did not say anything, but she could see he was moved. Hanyul and Ji-woo had changed too. They were not scared anymore, not nervous, not waiting for bad things to happen. They were happy. They ran through the corridors of the ship like it was their playground. They did their school lessons on data pads in the cargo bay while Yuna worked. They had friends now, children they met at stations and settlements along their routes. They had a life. Hanyul wanted to be a pilot. He was 10 years old now, tall and confident, and he spent every free moment in the cockpit with Do-yun. He learned the controls, the navigation systems, the way to read star charts and plan routes. Do-yun taught him everything, patient and careful, never rushing. "He has a gift," Do-yun told Yuna one day. "Good instincts, good hands. He will be a fine pilot someday." Yuna felt pride swell in her chest. Her son was going to be something. He was going to have a future. Ji-woo was 7 now, and she had decided that Bora was the most important person in the universe. She followed the old engineer everywhere, copying the way she walked, the way she talked, the way she held her tools. Bora pretended to be annoyed, but everyone could see she loved it. She had never had children of her own. Now, she had a granddaughter. "She calls me grandmother," Bora said to Yuna one evening. Her voice was gruff, but her eyes were soft. "I never thought I would hear that word. I thought I was too old for family." "You are never too old," Yuna said. "Family finds you when you need it." Bora nodded slowly. "Yes, I suppose it does." One night, the Starling was docked at a small station on the edge of the sector. They had just finished a delivery and were taking a day to rest and resupply. Hanyul and Ji-woo were asleep in their bunks. Bora was in the engine room, checking systems like she always did before bed. Yuna found Do-yun in the cargo bay, sitting on a crate and staring out the window at the stars. He did this sometimes, late at night, when he thought no one was watching. He would just sit and look at the darkness and think about things he never talked about. Yuna walked over and sat beside him. They were quiet for a while, just sitting together, watching the lights of distant ships move across the black. "Can I ask you something?" Yuna said finally. "Of course. You told me about your mother, how she raised you alone, how hard she worked, but you never told me what happened to her." Do-yun was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was soft and far away. "She got sick when I was 15. She had been working too hard for too long, and her body gave out. We did not have money for good doctors. We did not have money for the right medicine." He paused. "She died when I was 16. I was alone after that." Yuna felt her heart's ache for him. "I am sorry." "She never complained," Do-yun said. "Not once. She worked 3 jobs sometimes, and she came home exhausted every night. And she still helped me with my homework and made sure I ate dinner. She gave me everything she had. Everything." His voice cracked. "And I could not save her. I was just a kid. I did not have money or power or anything. I just watched her get weaker and weaker until she was gone." He took a breath and steadied himself. After she died, I swore I would never let that happen to anyone else if I could help it. I would never walk past someone who needed help. I would never turn away because it was easier or safer. He looked at Yuna. That is why I hired you. That is why I fly through storms to deliver medicine. That is why I do all of it. Because my mother taught me that the only thing that matters in this universe is how you treat other people. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. She reached out and put one of her hands on his. Your mother would be proud of you, she said. Doyen smiled, but it was sad. I hope so. I think about her every day. I wonder if I am living the way she wanted me to live. I wonder if I am good enough. You are, Yuna said. You are more than good enough. You saved my family. You gave us a home when we had nothing. You treated us like we mattered when the rest of the galaxy threw us away. She squeezed his hand. Your mother raised a good man, the best man I have ever known. Doyen looked at her, and she could see the emotion in his eyes. He did not speak. He did not need to. They understood each other. They sat there for a long time, looking at the stars together. The next morning, the starling left the station and headed for their next job. It was a simple run, medical supplies to a colony 2 weeks away. Good pay, easy route, nothing dangerous, just a normal job for a normal crew. But they were not a normal crew. They were a family. Doyen flew the ship with Hanel beside him, teaching him how to adjust course for solar winds. Bora checked the engines with Jiwoo at her side, letting her press buttons and turn dials. Yuna organized the cargo bay, making sure everything was perfect, knowing that her work mattered, that she mattered. She stopped for a moment and looked around, at the ship that had become her home, at the people who had become her family, at the life she had built from nothing. A year ago, she had been alone and desperate, rejected by everyone, running out of hope. Now she had everything she needed. Not money or status or the approval of people like Mireille. She had something better. She had people who loved her. She had a place where she belonged. The universe was big and cold and often cruel. There were people out there who would judge you and reject you and tell you that you were worthless. There were storms that would try to tear you apart. There were times when it seemed like no one cared, like you were completely alone. But you were not alone. You were never alone. Somewhere out there, there was someone who would see your value, someone who would give you a chance, someone who would stand beside you when things got hard and stay with you until they got better. You just had to find them, or let them find you. Yuna smiled and went back to work. Outside the window, the stars stretched out in every direction, infinite and beautiful. And the starling flew on, carrying its small family through the darkness toward whatever came next. They were ready. They were together. They were home.